All right, let's count down. All right, everyone. We're on another episode of the Clay Talk Show today. And here I have me, a great friend of mine and a HR representative, as we are going to cover um, just some basic understanding topics of job seeking things job seekers are going through, some basic HR practices as far as hiring, things to look out for, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to just get into just some basic understanding as to when you're searching for a job, what you should look for in a job application, and when you're interviewing with a hiring team, what should you do to better present yourself as the best candidate for the role. So, without further ado, we can start off with a quick introduction of who you are, Miss Carlisha. So, let's go into it.
Hi, my name is Carlisha. I have been knowing Lee for a little while now. Very great friends. Went to school to college together actually at Middle Tennessee University, where you could say we learned a little lot. um, but I have been in HR ever since I've basically graduated from college. A little bit in college, but basically ever since I got out of college, I used to be a recruiter. Moved to a human resource coordinator. Now I am a program manager.
All right, so let's go into some HR things. This is my most exciting thing to talk about, as people know that I have a lot of
No, we know.
issues with the hiring process in the job market. So, in your sense and standpoint, when a applicant from the outside in is looking into a company and they make it to the interview stage, what do you think would be some common, I guess, hiccups or mistakes that people make that gets them eliminated from uh, the the application process, or once they make it to the interview? What are some common things that you have ran into either personally or have seen yourself in your field?
Um, I want to say sometimes like you get those questions or you get those like you get those questions where hiring managers will ask you like have you done a specific skill or a specific role in a job. And basically you'll get those some answers they'll be like, "Oh no, I never done that before." Okay, we understand, that you've never done something before. But again, like elaborate, let them know that like, oh, I'm willing to learn. Let them know that you're willing to learn these skills. Give an example of something similar that you have done. Like reverse the question back onto them. Like, let's say you can't think of something that's similar to what you have done and what they're asking you. Like, you can't think of something off the top of your head. Reverse it back on them. Tell them what you have done. Then tell them what skills that you have. Like be confident in your answers of that you're giving them. The more confident you are, and not like hesitant on maybe you don't know the answer to the question, but don't let them get a sense or don't let them feel like you don't know the answer to the question. I know a lot of people will be like they don't use those open ended answers. They just give
Mhm.
you, yeah, I did that. Okay, well, how did you do it? Did you have to learn how to do it? What was your process of doing it? So I would just say, that's like a big thing. If I get in the interview and I don't know how to answer a question, as I stated, I'm going to reverse it. Like, I'm going to tell you what I've done. I'm going to tell you where I'm strong at. And then I'm going to let you know that I'm willing to learn XYZ instead of
Mm,
just giving you an answer to say, oh, no, I have not done that.
of course, right. So that goes back to that foundation terminology they call the STAR method. So situation, task, action, result that you've taken in a previous situation, and you can just elaborate on things that you've done in detail, so you can show some value added as
Correct.
soon as you are able to be onboarded, they can see that you know how to elaborate what you have done previously. You can relate it to what they're asking you, and you yourself personally have some results that can be visualized or are tangible that they can see the value in. So
Right, because I do
goes
want to say, I'm
to
sorry, to cut you off.
that just goes back into just doing a little research about the company beforehand.
Correct.
Yeah.
Um, what I was about to say is like you get, how can I put this? Every company is different. So the company, every company is not going to have the same human. Of course, human resource coordinator is like it's like an aspect of everyone going to do this similar to like the position in every company, right? But they go different ways about it. Different companies go different ways about their job roles. So let's say you did, that's why I say elaborate, because you may have did something similar, but it's not exactly what their job description titles or what their job title is. Two job titles can almost mean the same thing. Like I want to take an example of a position I had as a program manager and a human resource coordinator. I feel like sometimes those go hand in hand. Those tie into each other, and I want to say that because the job description I had from one job and looking at the job description I had at another job, they were similar. So I might as well speak on what I know, what I have done, instead of just giving them, oh no, I haven't used that system before. And then they'll just seem like, okay, so are you willing to learn? Already beat them to the punch. Like already let them know, yeah, I'm willing to learn to do XYZ. I've done XYZ. I kind of got a basic knowledge skill, a basic knowledge of it. Put yourself out there. That's the only way you'll get recognized, because I guarantee you it will be another candidate that they interview, and that candidate letting them know that I'm willing to learn. I'm a fast learner, giving them examples, coming up with solutions, versus the candidate that just cut them off at no, I never did that before.
Right.
Like give them something else. Feed into the questions that they're asking you.
So okay, so that leads me to the second part of that. You covered the job description. So the job description versus reality part of it for me, right? So when you see the job description, this is another issue before even making it to the interview stage, is the job description. So when someone looks at a job description, they see the 2025 requirements for something that they may not even do. Then you
Yeah.
have all these lists of skills, degrees, and technologies and systems that you need to be familiar with just to get a role that's supposed to be entry level into the company, which makes people even scared to even waste their time applying for it. B, when you do apply for it, and you may get into the role, you see that you don't even do 50% of the things on the job description. Or C, the job description is just a copy and paste from other recs or similar other openings in other companies that people just do not even take the time out to manually write that actually fits what they need in the company. So it's kind of hard for job seekers to say, I can just go off of this job description and know exactly what I need to do. So that goes into the point of asking relevant questions when you are in the interview of what this day to day really looks like. So they really can't tell you that day to day operations, the direct people you may be contacting, how the team is set up, etc., on different projects that you may be working on. Then you can just raise a red flag right there about that role, that company. So, have you seen some of those in your experience of just um, the job description? I mentioned the reality of it.
I would say I've been in this position before, and I would say that because let's say I was afraid, like before I applied to, because a program manager, a program associate, like that can mean different things at different companies, right? Um, it's different programs that you can manage. It's different it's different job descriptions that goes with that title. Um, I was afraid. I was afraid that well, this job title says program manager. I've I haven't managed anything. I just done the basics, you know? So I was a little hesitant, but what made me apply is because once I saw that job description, I was like, the sky's the limit. Like sometimes you have to put yourself out there because no a job can't really just tell you you can't do a job right until you actually do it. If it's simple to you on paper, then it's simple. To me, I look at it. If it's simple to me on paper, then it's simple. If I have in my mind that oh I saw this before, oh I know how to do this, or maybe this title is just messing with my head, or maybe this title is just getting to my head because it may be smaller than what I think it is. It may I'm making it too big when I've done this before. So that's why I put myself out there to apply for that role. Um, I took that job description, I matched it with a job description that I had before. I tailored my resume to incorporate some of those words. But hey, that goes to another thing. Like they say, you got to tailor your resume to match some of the words that's in the job description. And some people say you don't have to do that. So hey, who really knows what you have to do? But put yourself out there. I was really, really, really afraid to apply for that role because I was like, I'm not gonna get it. But hey, I did. I presented myself in the interview, let them know I was open to learning new things that I've never learned before. That goes to sometimes the company want to know you're willing versus just putting you in a role. And then you got some companies that just want to fill the role and not look at you as you just a person. They're looking at you as an object. But sometimes you can look up on those jobs that don't look at you as an object. They look at you as a person. They see you and they see you're passionate about it. They see why you're applying for this job and they give you a chance. I
Right.
hope I answered your
So
question.
yeah, so but the thing is when you go into the detail of even if the job is the description is not something that you're always familiar with or you may be missing some skill sets that they're requiring. So this issue has came up recently on LinkedIn with a recruiter. She has a big follower base and she knows her platform and she knows that she's going to get reactions to anything that she's posting. So she posted in all caps, stop shooting your shot at these jobs that you're not qualified for. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of everyone's time. So when people see things like that, they say, so I must be a 100% match for the role. Like it sounds easy to say I'm willing to learn, but then you have people like that who say, stop shooting your shot, which got a lot of negative feedback on that. And eventually it came down. She took it down because she realized that's just not the way to handle things, right? Telling people not to shoot for goals that they're
Hmm.
wanting to achieve. So it goes back into the question of what is actually achievable. What is a big enough gap on a job posting that a person can have that they should still feel comfortable still applying to? Should they be 40% match? Should they be 60, 80? And I tell myself, if you feel as though you got at least half of the knowledge on the post is worth applying to,
Correct.
and
I
trying
agree.
trying to see where that manager or that hiring manager can gauge your knowledge of what you do know and how much they will have to work with you to get you up to speed or what they need you on for the job at.
I just want to say that you see a resume, right? You're just looking at a resume. You don't know that person off a piece of paper. You have to give that person a chance and talk to that person in order to even sense how a person is, or let them talk about their skill, let them talk about what they have to offer and what they have to present to the table and what can they bring to that role in that company. I don't I don't like this thing of people would say, "Oh, your resume was not 100% match." What resume is going to be 100% match? Um, what does a 100% person look like in that role? I came in my role and I learned new things. I didn't know everything. I learned new things because they taught new things to me. Just like I said, you go from one company to another, and different companies do things different ways. You can't expect a person to, and you can't say a person is underqualified. Okay, let me just say it just depends on. Now, if a person know that they have no engineering skills, well, of course, you're not gonna go applying for engineering jobs until you have a basic skill set. At least if you have a basic knowledge of something, who is to say you're not qualified to do so? I had a basic knowledge of being a human resource coordinator, a basic knowledge of being a recruiter, and it still was more skills that I had to learn that came within their role. And they still had to teach me that. But I gave my all in that interview. So, but why? Because they met me as a person. They looked at me outside of that piece of paper of what my resume stated. That's what I feel like people should do. That's what I feel like companies should do. You can't judge somebody off a resume. You have some people say make your resume one page long. Then you have people say put the important relevant jobs on your resume. Your resume should not go over one page. Which one is it? So different people when they look at their resume, they see different things. You can't I just feel like that it should be equal opportunity for everybody, no matter their color, no matter how old they are, no matter if I don't care if a person wants to come from a leadership role to a role that they have to work under somebody. That may be a role that they're comfortable in. Give that person that chance to be able to express themselves and be able to express themselves off of a piece of paper.
Hmm.
You know?
So
Does that make sense?
yeah, it makes sense to us, but you have people who say, "Well, that's just not how it is. I've applied to 400 or 500 job positions," and you have the recruiter side of things who say, "Hey, they have to get thousands of applicants per job rec, and how do they go about selecting who is a good fit for the role? What makes these resumes stand out?" So that's where you go back into the issue of the matching the job resume to the job posting issue, right? So you have to match your resume to that job posting thing. That's that debate. And then they say they have to review every resume who's applied. And I just, how do someone effectively look through 2,000 applicants just by a piece of paper and then say they're not qualified or they are qualified? What goes through a person's mind as a previous recruiter and an HR standpoint? If you have to look at 2,000 applicants, you have to look at 2,000 resumes. How are you going to filter out who's a good fit and who's not? Right. So now we got to put ourselves in that position. What would you do?
Okay, so I would just use like a title as an example. Let's say some titles it require a degree, right? And then you got some people that's in school for that degree. I've seen where I've seen where they, even though a person is in school for that degree and have not completed it yet, they just automatically don't give them that chance, right? Which I feel that person, might have so much more knowledge than a person that has a degree. Not everyone have their degree yet, or some people are in school getting a degree. And then like for me, going through 2000 resumes, like let me tell you again, I have the basic knowledge of being a recruiter, not like the full aspect of recruiting. But I wouldn't just throw out a person because like, oh well, they only had one job for 5 years. They only had one job for 5 years, but this person, they had two jobs but 10 years, so that means she's older. So I'm gonna go with her. No, um, I haven't been in the position to say, oh, I'll do XYZ over the other. I don't really know like how they would distinguish like how they select people for interviews. I would say yeah, a person do have to tailor their resume in order to even get recognized, which a lot of people have to do. In order for your resume to even be pulled, oh well, my resume didn't get selected. That goes back to me saying some jobs tell you to put those wording in your job description so you can stand out or even show as some type of match to the positions that's been posted. Um, but again, people shouldn't judge you off a piece of paper. A candidate they might have passed up, they might have been the candidate that they were looking for. But now since you just threw their resume out, it's like you have to go off only what you see. Which again, I can't really speak on like how they distinguish looking for a resume. I can't really speak on like resumes being chosen. I didn't I didn't really do that part. So, but my opinion is just I just think like the world this market of recruiters are not putting themselves in the candidate's position. They're just thinking of their position, just trying to place someone in their role. They're not putting themselves in those shoes of the candidate because
It's not them.
they were there once. You know, once
Mm,
once most recruiters get in their position, all they think about is filling a role.
mm-hmm,
That goes back to me saying they're looking at a person as an object and not as a person. Because again, they're going solely off what's on their piece of paper.
mm. Yep.
Some people say some you I had a recruiter that I know I had a recruiter that was like, "Oh, their resume is too long." So is the resume too long? Is the resume too short? Does the resume not detail enough for you? Like, which one is it? They like which one is it? You want me to put all my relevant experience that I had to the job, but then you don't want my resume to be too long, or you tell me, oh, this person had too many jobs. We're gonna kick that person out. You're not gonna stay in the role long. For someone to say, oh, you had too many jobs. We're gonna kick you out. You're not gonna stay in the role long. You can't say a person not going to stay in a role too long, or I mean you can't say a person is going to stay in a role for a short amount of time if you haven't even spoke with that person to even give that person the chance to even elaborate on why they even left certain roles. So to just throw a person resume out because oh uh they changed two jobs in the last year. What was the reason why they changed two jobs in the last year? I'm not going to stay anywhere that I'm not comfortable at as well. So if I feel like a better opportunity presented itself, then where am I gonna go? I'm gonna go with the better opportunity. You have to they probably weighed their options and decided to go with the one that is better fit for them in their life. Um, so that's another thing. It's just like a whole lot of stigmas that recruiting is like a whole it's just a whole stigma of things.
Mm,
It's pros, it's cons, what needs to be changed, what can stay the same, which I can't even think off the top of my head what can stay the same in this recruiting process. I think a lot of things need to be changed
A
with that.
lot, a whole revamp. But we have some senior level HR managers and things that I follow who say there's nothing wrong with the hiring process, but obviously there is. If we have a lot of layoffs, thousands of people open to searching for jobs, I see it every day. There are people who with entry skills, and there are some people who've been at the bigger companies like Google, Disney, etc. for 15 plus years, and they're still having a hard time finding a job. So you're telling me everybody's out there, their resume is bad. They don't know how to interview. They don't know the job. You're telling me this everyone's out there. It's just they're not doing their part, which is we know that's not feasible. So
And you have some managers, and just speaking off experience, you have some managers that get their management role, right? And they don't want anyone that will come in that they feel like would be that would pass them, or like that would they want someone to come in that's beneath them. So you get those hiring managers that will give you an interview, and then if they feel like, oh, this person is super confident, this person have all this experience, I have XYZ. Oh no, we don't want that person because I don't need that person thinking they're gonna come and surpass me.
hmm,
I've seen it happen. And what does that present as a whole for a company when they have these managers in these positions, right? What what needs to be put in place for leadership to again stop looking at people like an object and look at them as a person, because they someone was always once in a position that they had to work to get where they are. Once they get where they are, sometimes they forget what it took for them to get there, or they forget like others want to get to the same and do the same as they did to get to where they are. So you got some people that are terrible managers, terrible
mm,
hiring managers. They only look at people as object.
mm. Well, now it's the issue of being on the outside looking in as a now I'm a job seeker. I know what's going on. I know that the hiring process sucks. The market is terrible. There are not as many jobs as they proclaim it is. There's a lot of skewed numbers out there that says, "Hey, it's a lot of jobs. It's just not a lot of people," which we know that's not the case because he had to put in factors of the high inflation rates with the minimum job pay for a lot of positions. We still getting offered $12 to $20 an hour for a lot of job roles. So
Correct.
that is hard to live off of with a person with a full family they had to take care of. So
Right.
it's just not a lot of, I would say, feasible paying roles for people, which are is different than not having jobs. So yeah, there are jobs, but what are they paying, right? And the second part is that hey, even some people are trying to even get those low paying jobs because at the end of the day they have to pay bills, they have to do something, even if it's the bare minimum just to stay alive for their bills, to have
Correct.
make ends meet, and they're still getting the type of rejection saying, hey, well, you're overqualified. Okay, well,
Oh,
that's another problem, right? So why in an HR standpoint, why is that a acceptable answer to give people when
not
they're
acceptable.
when they're trying to get a role? Why is it acceptable, right?
No, not acceptable. I oh my gosh, I just feel like I had so many experiences. So I'm gonna speak for experience for myself. I moved from where I'm from, and then I moved to a different city. I was looking for a job, right? And of course, you get sometimes where you're applying, you're like, okay, you know what, I have to go and I have to do something, because I have to feed myself. I have to keep a roof over my head. I have to pay a bill. Bills is not gonna stop, right? Because the job market don't want to hire you. Um, so I went to this place and I was trying to apply for a warehouse position. Basically, I had warehouse experience before because I'm pretty sure a lot of people have. I've worked in warehouses in college, whatever. Even outside of college, summertime, I would still keep a job working at a warehouse. I mean, most of the time, that's where people start, right? Um, so I went in and I applied for this position. And basically, the lady asked me, did I have a resume? I told her my resume. I can give her a resume that's not so much up to date, because it didn't have like my newer positions that I had just like recently out of on there. But I do have some warehouse experience. So I gave her two resumes, two, right?
Mm,
I gave her one to show like the my warehouse resume, and then I also gave her one like my resume that was up to date at that time. She looked at me and she said, "Oh, you have this skill and you have this skill," and she was like, "I don't have anything for you to start at the moment." And I was like, "But when I walked in." I was like, but when I walked in, you said you had like five positions that was in this warehouse, pick, pack, sorter, whatever. And then she was like, yeah, but I think you are a better fit for like one of our clerical positions, but I don't have one open right now. Okay. So I came in here looking for a job. You have some openings, but you do not want to give me those openings because you feel like I'm overqualified to work in a warehouse. But what if that's what I wanted to do? What if that's what makes me happy working in the warehouse? What if I've seen people that did jobs for 20 years, but they don't want to do that job anymore. They want to do a more calm job. They want to be more laid back. They don't want to manage people. They don't want to do XYZ. But how are they overqualified for their role if they're more than capable of doing it? Like, how can you tell somebody they're overqualified? What is overqualified?
mm,
What is that? If a
mhm,
person have done that before and this is where they're comfortable at and you have this opening, but you don't want to send this person. What if I got in that role and I stayed there for years? Because what if I was comfortable with doing that? It's just like where they try to judge you off a piece of paper. Again, it all comes back down to the piece of paper. They try to judge you on this piece of paper where if I'm capable or if I want to apply for this job, I feel like if you had that opening, I should have received that opening. And again, she did not give me the position. She did not even let me elaborate on like, well, I have this experience. The only resume she saw was my previous one, not what I have done in the past and will more than capable of packing items in a box.
yeah.
But she
So
thought I was overqualified.
that is just what is the reality these days, and you covered the point of the submitting the unupdated or different resume from your true type of experience, which I seen another person who had that same type of request from a recruiter on LinkedIn, where he has a good amount of managerial experience, and he was getting off. He was not getting any offers, but a recruiter reached out to him and saying, "Hey, maybe you should." Basically telling him to dumb the resume down, and he just said that's just against his integrity to do that, because why should
Exactly.
I have to reduce my value added to my previous roles just to settle or fit into your company. Obviously, it's just not a company that I want to be at. But being in a good position like that, where you can make those type of decisions for yourselves, then that's where you want to be at in 2023. But all in all, I have some recommendations for any hiring processes that can be changed. And in my standpoint, instead of we having one or two managers or recruiters at the hiring process, maybe the process can look like, far as getting a person in the company, let's take the teams, because when you're in a job, you're not just working with just usually you're not just working with one team. You're working with cross-functional. Things are agile these days. You're working with different teams, working with different contractors, vendors. I say a process that can be implemented is having input from those different teams, a person from those different teams on a interview with that person in a 30-minute to an hour meeting. Instead of having 5 rounds of interviews, we could be more efficient. We can have different vendors and the contractors that the person would be working with from those different sub companies,
Like a panel.
like a panel type of
Okay.
thing, not with just one person or one group of people within that one company.
They basically would go ahead
Yeah,
and make their judgment off what
yeah,
they want to make
yeah,
their
what
judgment
they
on.
want, not based on what this one company wants. It can be the person that would be a good fit for working with all these different people they will work with. So that can be done. I think that'd be a great improvement from just relying and having your future in the hands of just one person making the yes or no in the checkbox. So, well, we're just going to end this episode here because we have a lot of different things we're going to talk about, and I want to go into on my next episode of gaining those hands-on technical skills and what they're looking like, right? So I cover a lot of information about gaining the hands-on skills that you need to gain the experience you need to get the job that you want. So what I'm going to do on my next show is I'm going to give some resources. I'm going to go over some things. I'm going to show you what it actually looks like to say I am building my experience in labs. I'm building my resume to reflect what I've learned. So we're just going to cover that. So on this episode, we just covered just a few of the HR topics, and there's a lot more, and we're going to get more people involved in talking to them about their experience with the HR side of things. So, on the next episode, thanks for joining the show.